Welcome to the Graceful Empty Nester. I'm Kim Damon, your host and founder of Worthy Moms at Midlife Discoveries. I help moms create an empowered relationship with their adult children so that they can feel connected and included. The Graceful Empty Nester Conference is packed full of expert speakers that are here to teach you strategies to reconnect with your children, heal your relationships, inspire a future of connectivity and inclusion, thriving as an empty nester. Enjoy this amazing episode. Today, I would like to welcome Jamie Ehrenthal. Jamie's a certified life coach, financial planner, and a 20-plus year yoga teacher. Jamie has an MBA and has an avid interest in personal finance. And she became a certified financial planner and a life coach with a mission to empower women to take control of their financial being. So welcome to the Graceful Empty Nesters, Jamie.
Hi, so nice to see you. As Kim said, I'm Jamie Ehrenthal, and I consider myself to be a money coach. My passion is helping women who maybe hadn't been in charge of their money before to take control of their money, to get clarity so that they can obtain financial independence. And the way I came to this was my father made it very clear that I was going to be the one who took care of the family money when he was gone. And it was really important because my mom really wasn't able to take care of her day to day. So I was stepping in, and actually days after my dad was gone is when I signed up for this financial planner certification course. So I'm really happy to talk to you today about the things that you can do to get more clarity on your money.
Oh, that's great, Jamie. So how would you talk to your spouse or your adult children about your money?
Well, it's a really common problem that women don't know where the money is or what's going to happen when their partner is gone. So this is not, take small steps is what I would recommend here. Take a deep breath, get centered. But this conversation, especially with your spouse, is critical. My dad really gave us a gift. He left us a treasure map. He had made a list of all of his accounts and passwords and phone numbers that we needed to call when he was gone. And this is something, if you don't know where all the money is, very important conversation to have with your spouse. And on the other hand, when you do know where the assets are, your adult children need to be brought into this conversation. They need to understand how much money the parents have, what the expectations are, either while you're still living and possibly incapacitated or when you're gone.
Yeah, that's great. And, sometimes in the empty nest, unfortunately, people consider divorce, that gray divorce, and how much money they are going to need to retire or actually cover their lifestyle if they go this route.
Yeah, no, this is a key topic. The statistics are that although 70% of women are the ones who initiate the divorce, most of them really don't know how much money there's going to be. And this gray divorce, sometimes it's called boomer divorce, and it's referring to divorces that occur at 50 years and older. Those numbers as a percentage of the total divorce rate have doubled since 1990, and the percentage is expected to triple. So right now, about 35% of all divorces are considered gray divorces over 50. And you can imagine, I'm sure you can see as an empty nester, why this might be the case. I mean, suddenly, after a lifetime of being completely consumed by your children's activities and family business, if you would, suddenly you and your partner are left to face each other, and you may have grown apart or have different plans, or there may have been infidelity, including financial infidelity. So there are a lot of reasons why these divorces are going on the uptick. And I'll tell you a personal story. My daughter left for college in 2020, and I became very curious about what money I would have if my husband and I decided to divorce. And it led me to take another certification called a divorce financial analyst. And this is something that goes in tandem with the financial planner certification. And in doing so, what became very clear to me is that the lifestyle that my spouse and I had been living would essentially be cut in half when we split, right? The same monies we're going to have to now cover two households, two cars, two vacations, so in my opinion, I chose to seek an alternative to the divorce, working harder on my marriage. But if that doesn't work for you, it's very important before you initiate the divorce, or maybe after your spouse has already initiated, to go through all of the accounts to make sure you know how much money there is, how many loans are outstanding. And I will say that I just did a blog on this. So when you go on my website later, if you like, you could see the 5 things you need to know before you divorce. One of the things that comes up a lot is the family home. And a lot of women want to keep the home. But when you really do the numbers, often that's just it's not feasible. So begin to think about how much you have, how much your husband, hopefully is, or spouse is hiding from you, and begin to really think about what your life could look like in those 2 separate households.
So what steps can you take right now to actually ensure that you have enough money to live on?
Yeah, that's a great question. And this is kind of like getting on the scale. I'm a lifetime member of Weight Watchers, and you have to get on the scale at least once a month. And looking at your money could really be very painful for you. We weren't taught how to manage our money, right? There was no class I have an MBA in finance. We did not learn about personal finance. This is something that either you learn from your parents, the people who raised you, or it's the school of hard knocks. But essentially, once you can take a deep breath again, right? Ground yourself. It's simple addition and subtraction, right? Adding up all of the money that you have, those are your assets, subtracting out any credit card debt or mortgages or personal loans that you have. And the net result, it's called your net worth. That's not your personal value, your personal worth. That's just a number, just like it is on the scale. It's not good or bad. And the first steps, you need to have enough money on hand, right, for emergencies. So I always recommend start off, with a cup of tea, with your favorite music playing in the background, maybe even a candle, and start to look at what this month's expenses were. Like, what is it costing you to live the lifestyle that you're living? And once you know that, then you can begin to save appropriately, to figure out what's the debt that's good. I say there's no good or bad debt. There's debt that's useful and less useful. So having a plan to pay off debts, making sure you're investing properly in your retirement, and then, legacy planning, talking to your kids, making decisions about what you want to happen when you're gone.
Yeah, that's great. And so how would you advise an empty nester that gives their adult children money or loans
Yes.
that don't necessarily have the money?
Yeah, this is a really big issue. And I don't know if any of you have heard of Susie Orman, but she's adamant. You do not spend your retirement money on your children's midlife. They're, wants versus needs. Very important for you to be spending money in line with your values. And of course, your relationships are probably one of your top values and you want to help them, but you cannot borrow. Once you are retired, you cannot qualify for most loans, right? You won't have your stream of income anymore. Whereas your children, your adult children, can borrow money and they have a much longer runway to pay off that debt. I think the thing you want to really make clear with your kids is you don't want to have to come to them in your later years for help. You want to make sure that you are saving properly and investing properly so you can take care of yourself. And of course, you'll help them when you can. but please don't go into debt for your children.
Yeah, I think that this is such an important issue to remember. And you can easily refer back to what you said if a child is asking for money that you don't necessarily have. I mean, it's really important to get clear on that and to communicate with them. So thank you for that piece of information. Very important.
Absolutely.
Um, when you have adult children or even grandchildren that don't necessarily get along,
Mm.
what would you recommend for splitting up that personal property?
Well, this is a really complicated question, and there's no one answer fits all. Your attorney can probably give you options, but this isn't something that you really want to waste the dollars that you're spending on your attorney noodling out. I mean, your therapist might jump in there and have a conversation with you about this as well. But the key thing is that there's no right answer. You need to make a decision ahead of time, because the worst thing that can happen is when you're gone, it's a big surprise to everybody. So your wills, letters that you write, any directives that you can give ahead of time, you're in charge here. You have to make the decision that's best for your children, for your family.
Yes. Yeah. So for an empty nester that has, an adequate to them decent retirement, what's the best advice that you could give them in living in their retirement years?
Well, I think we touched on this a little bit in the case of divorce, where the level of money that's available when you divorce is split in half. I want you to think about retirement as an opportunity to downsize, right? You're really going to take a hard look. It used to be that we would project that we're only going to need 80% of the money that we're spending now while we're working. But with having second homes or traveling to visit the grandchildren, we're often spending the same or even more than we spent before we retired. So taking a look at one app that I really like, it's called Silver, SILVUR.com. And they regularly have articles on the best places to retire, not just because of state income taxes being different, but also where you can get the best medical care and live where retirees go to work, maybe still, and play. So I would really suggest downsizing if that's appropriate for you, taking a good look at what expenditures are wants and not needs, and then using either a financial advisor, or if you're a client of mine, of course, I'll give you advice on which assets you have that should be liquidated first, because there are tax consequences as you start to delete or dip into all your different types of savings.
Oh, that's that's very true. So, can you tell us too about your free gift that you have for the viewers today?
Yes, yes. So I prepared, it's really a savings sequence. So when women come to me and they say, I don't even know where to get started, what do I do? So the savings sequence starts off with your emergency fund, and there are steps prior to figuring out how much that emergency fund is. And then I like to think of this as the champagne tower. I don't know how many of you like champagne. I do. But imagine the champagne tower where the champagne's being poured in through the top and then cascading down to the next level. So that first glass at the top is your emergency fund. And that's a number that's got to cover you for at least 6 to 12 months of your regular expenses in case of a true emergency. And then the next level down is contributing to your retirement. And then it goes into paying down debt, taking care of things for your children, your legacy, maybe whether it's still their education or just really preparing what's to come later. And then finally, making investments that will pay you money even when you're not working anymore. So that's something that I would love for you to opt in for, and take a look at my website and see if there are also blog posts that are of interest to you.
Oh, that is wonderful. So, I really appreciate you being here, Jamie. This is such an important issue, and I know you have a wonderful program. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Sure. I have a course called the 90-Day Money Confidence School, and we do thought work because a lot of what's going on in our heads is really, are bashing ourselves, right? Beating ourselves up for not having done it right. And one of the affirmations I have taped to my door is, I have forgive myself for money mistakes I've made in the past, because we all have, right? But the past is the past. And so this thought work really helps you to take a look at where you want to be. Like, what is your future vision of your life? And once you know that, then you have the why to instill the habits that are going to bring you to a wealthy woman place.
Hmm. Yeah. And
And
I
the other
hear,
parts of I'm sorry, the other
go
parts of
ahead.
the course are very, hands-on. I know you can get all of this information about how to, calculate your net worth and the rest of it online. But many women that I meet just want somebody to hold their hand and to go through it step by step. So that's what we do in the program as well. We build out your net worth statement, your cash flow or spending plan. We project what you want to do the next years, and we talk about the retirement. So please come and take a look. All the details are on the website.
Yeah, which I think is so important because sometimes we just, we don't have the educational background that you do and the knowledge. So that's extremely important to get that expert advice. And I often hear moms, tell stories on a regular basis about, giving their kids money and potentially leaving them in hardship and at least causing them some major adjustments that they didn't expect in their lifestyle, so their retired lifestyle. So before we go, do you just have any advice for any empty nester out there in regards to any additional advice
Sure.
in regards to retirement?
Well, you are in a beautiful point in your life right now, right? There's no discount for having launched your children, gotten them out of the house and started. And now is really when you get to decide who you want to be and what life you want to have going forward. The life expectancy now for women is like 98, and many of us are going to live past 100. So these are really valuable years ahead of us. And we want to be looking at what our purpose is, thinking about, what's of most value to us, and then really living and spending in alignment with our values. So for anyone who is signed up as a VIP, you can opt in and get my financial checklist. And that's a list of all those documents that you need to calculate your net worth and also to have that conversation with your spouse and your children.
Having gone through a death of my parents, that is invaluable. That is so important. Thank you for that.
You're welcome. Well, one more thing, if you are considering divorce, just make sure that you have been married at least 10 years, because the Social Security rules say that you are eligible to collect on your spouse's Social Security, but only if you've been married 10 years. And there are rules about not remarrying, but luckily you're okay to remarry after you turn 60. They may raise that bar in the future, but stick it out for at least 10 years, please.
So I just want to thank you so much, Jamie, for joining us today. A link to your website and a link to your free offer is below. And I want you to, have a wonderful day. Viewers, have a graceful empty nester day today.
Thank you so much.